Hello, everyone. This is Eddie from PandaDoc. Thank you for joining us today. Sorry for slight delay. We had some technical issues. Today we have an awesome event lined up for you guys. We're gonna have Timo Rain, the CEO of PipeDrive, and he's gonna share his advice and tips for activity-based selling and how you can implement that in your organization. As mentioned, Timo is co-founder and president of PipeDrive and provides a sales CRM software that gives sales teams control over their selling processes. He has 15 years of experience as a salesman, sales manager, software entrepreneur. Timo, are you ready to kick it off?
Hey, Eddie, absolutely. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Timo.
So we'll go from here. We have obviously plans with Nikita. Hopefully he can figure out the technical glitch there. But let's start without ado. So today, want to talk about mastering activity-based sales first, and then about sales enablement. So why this sort of topic? When we look at the DNA level of human beings, I think we're all super unique. Sort of 1 in 7 billion, and yet on a galactic level, I think we're all dust. But when you think of human lifetime, I think, which is a good angle, we're either doing something or being someone we're proud of, or we're producing a story of excuses that we'd rather not share with anybody. And I don't think that any of us wants to see the latter to happen. So the question, which I think is a good thing to ask, is: do you master your craft, whatever it is? And currently, it's about sales. So, as Eddie said, about a little bit about the background, I just wanted to put out one more personal note here: is that I started out in sales with a clear conviction that no one will buy from me, and I did see that, if I stick to what I could control, I ended up being among top 1% of salespeople in many organizations I worked in, which was a surprise. But after being in sales for about 15 years and not finding a sales management tool that we liked or needed, and decided to create PipeDrive to help people to organize the sales efforts and manage the sales of high value products and services. But on to what's really the basic underlying principle or principles of activity-based sales that we're talking about today here. I'll start with this. As we all know that, in US or in the world, or Europe, anywhere, it's not legal to threaten prospects with a gun in order to make them buy. So, though seriously, you cannot control that sort of buying decision in sales. It's the prospect who makes it. And you can at the same time control what you propose and what you do in the process that leads up to this point. So that's why that's sort of a statement to begin with. The question is then, what are the basic actions? And as sales happens between two parties, we can say that, you calling people, emailing people, meeting with people, literally are your key actions that you take. In addition, obviously, you create notes and proposals and quotes which support you during the, taking these key actions. And that's what Nikita will talk about more in detail about the ways and importance of even enablement in sales. Now, if we look at if we could look at some of the metrics, what will be the metrics that would tell us you're doing great in sales? Obviously, the end result, the revenue, but there are really good key performance indicators that also tell a very good story how you're doing, not just for the month of November or this quarter, but going forward. So I think anybody who has worked in sales, that you have these things, going for you or not going for you. So if you have for example, let's assume that you have 6 sales opportunities or deals you could open at the same time, which is not really the real world case, but let's just imagine. And let's say that average, it takes you about 3 months to close. By the end of this 3 months, you have closed all these 6 deals. And let's imagine that you also have a chance to close or the ability to close 50% of them. That means that out of these 6, you close 3. And you could also say that if you average deal size 100,000, for example, that means that you won 3 deals in 3 months, and that's turnover or revenue of 300K. So you can get to these numbers of saying that, okay, my sales engine is going at 300K per quarter or 100K per month or $600 per hour, if you will. But the point here is that you can do something about these metrics with focused actions, and some of these require more hard work, some of them more smart work, but you can see these changes. And out of my personal experience, I've seen that if you set a sales goal as a result you cannot control, and then you work backwards to get the weekly and daily action targets that you can control, then if you're able to forget about the results and really focus in on action, is a really good thing to do in sales if you want the results. So, and that's how we get to the whole steps of how you can close more deals or set activity-based sales up for yourself or for your team. We've talked about it in a high level in our blog and in the Sales Hacker podcast, and just mention it here real quick is that we've gone from what to do and what's your goal and why you want it and how you get to this and what sort of resources are needed and what sort of action metrics and action targets could be set, and then analyzing how things are going and deciding what to improve and then really evolving. But I also want to point out one thing is that after being in sales for about 20 years, I'd say that we can also forget about guidelines and collateral and technology and all these things which are there to help us. At the end of the day, they are, how can I put it, really like lifeless items. So without you as a performer on a stage we call sales or as a runner, you sort of on a bridge between prospects trying to solve their problems and you providing solutions, I mean, it's nothing. You won't be able to make the sales just by having technology or guidelines or collateral. You have to perform. And I remember one thing which sort of stick to my mind from my early experience in sales is that there was a guy in sales that I knew that everybody was talking about how terrible he looked and how much he sort of just by his appearance and his manners, how he pushed people away because people kind of didn't want to talk with him. But at the same time, so many things were going against him, let's put it that way. But at the same time, he was a real performer and he just did the work and figured out the hard part of it and the smart part of it. And most of the time, he outsold everybody like by crazy amounts. So it is really you that makes everything happen. But the question is then, why master something? Why master sales or activity-based sales? Why not just wing it? I think it comes from the same example that I've seen many, many times, is that the results and rewards are so different, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times different. But the time spent at work, pretty much the same. So the question then that we get to is, what do you do and how do you master activity-based sales and how do you set it up for yourself or a team? Well, the first thing is that I think with anything, you got to start with committing the time. If the only thing you wanted to learn was opening your mouth, obviously you'll be probably pretty good after first try. But as sales involves a whole lot more, time becomes a factor. And mainly because our ability to focus is limited, usually to one thing at a time, until this sort of focused action or practice becomes automatic. Like a habit or a muscle memory. And the question I've asked myself at times is, how many behaviors do we need to learn in sales? More than 10, 100, 1,000? I don't really know the answer, but I know it's more than 10. Maybe it's less than 1,000. But the point is that all of this focusing, practicing, then losing, regaining focus, just all of this takes time. And if you're not willing to commit years of your time learning to master, I think sales is not the job that you should be in, because it involves a lot of things to get really good at in order to have also the good results rather than just do the work. So I can't be even more specific here than just saying that, committing time and here's why. The second, point which I've seen is that I honestly think that the world is really, really filled with people who are really talented, but maybe don't practice as hard, and that's why they don't see themselves going somewhere. And I think that if you take an example, for example, Michael Jordan, I think most people would probably know him as an ex-basketball player in North America. after 10 years in the league and 3 times as an NBA champion, by that time when he was in NBA, you would think that he wouldn't want to practice some of the basics anymore because he was pretty good at his craft, and yet he decided, to do that anyway, just, passing the ball, for example. And I think the reason why is that, people who are very good at something, they realize that, learner's mentality is something that helps them get better forever. It doesn't matter, obviously, that you get better every day or week or month, but you will forever have this chance if you have a sort of a mentality. And I've noticed one thing: if you put in action, what starts to happen is that you will see some results. You will probably have a lot of randomness, but you will see results going up. You will see results going down, and then just purely having that mentality that you're going to learn things and you're going to make sense. Obviously, like I said before, it takes time, but you will become more consistent. And with consistency in sales, I think what also happens on a psychological level is that you will become more confident, because it's way easier to live in a world where you know what's going to happen rather than you really don't know. So, establishing that sort of consistency in your results that comes from you being really focused on action, I think that's probably, maybe for most people, the biggest jump that they ever do, because improving something significantly is way, way harder. And this takes, I think, years, like 10 years or more, and I don't know how many people actually have that sort of experience or have that sort of willingness to go with something. So just getting from randomness to more consistency, if you're open, if you're willing to make sense of things and learn from the best, then you will see good results. Then probably one of the best ways that I think that happens is that you see the breakdown. So what's the breakdown really? On a technical definition level, is that how many pieces you see in a whole, basically, or how many pieces the whole is divided into for you. And in sales, the question can be asked, like, when you see a call, when you see somebody making a call, for example, you're witnessing it, was it for you just all in one piece, which is a breakdown of one, or did you notice 5 different items here, or behaviors or things that the person did, or 10? And I think as we learn, we master things by breaking them down, breaking the whole process down to small actions that we can perform more easily. And when we try to glue them all together, it becomes old again. And at first, obviously, it's mechanical until it becomes more fluid. But learning to see that breakdown, I think that's what separates sort of the winging mentality from actual really professional mentality. And I think going back, even after being in sales by that time for about 5 or 6 years, I remember times when I had a sales meeting and then went back, drove to my office and realized that I didn't get these people to open up the way I wanted. And I remember I sat down and I just broke down the process that I was, trying to lead, like how do I open the people up? And I came up with a sort of one-pager of, things I'm going to do specifically. And that was something that helped me a whole lot, just breaking this opening meetings up. I can't remember, maybe 3 or 4 different things that I definitely wanted to do. This is one of these things that you see the breakdown and you try to apply the breakdown. The other example that I used, obviously, was the questions list to discover the needs and understand whether there's a chance for us to really be the provider for that prospect. And again, I remember the moments when you're out of that meeting, you realize that you did do well with some of the questions, and with some of the questions you just completely forget about. So, I think this is how we get better. And I think also this is why, sales pipeline management is such a good concept, because it immediately forces you to see a breakdown, at least on a sort of high level in the processes, and then you can lay this process of sales in front of you, and you can look at parts at which you need to master, like how you qualify, how you call prospects, how you call to set up an introductory meeting, and then how you already have that needs discovery meeting, and how you are meeting to present a proposal, etc. So just seeing the breakdown and learning from the guys who do it really well, and also analyzing yourself is one way of, again, applying this for yourself and in your team. And then we get to reading people, and as we have, I mentioned this sort of gun exclusion law that we can't really force people to buy. Then obviously we have to ask them whether they are ready to move forward, and I mean, that's why we need to read people and see if they're ready. And a problem, I think the problem of not mastering your own actions, what it leads to is that your attention that you should pay to prospects and customers is just not there. So the point is that you should learn to ask direct and specific questions and pay attention to the answers. But if you're not mastering your own things and doing your part of that, then it's very difficult to really see what's happening in the eyes and in the eyes of the prospect. And that was something that I personally learned the hard way in any sales job, is that if you don't spend enough time getting your craft sort of fluid and more or less automatic, so that you could pay attention to what the people really answer to you, then you can stay in this sort of role where you're basically doing everything the good performers do, but you're not just getting anywhere. You're not getting anywhere because you can't see which people you should be talking further, and you can't really see what was the key thing that just got said by a prospect. And I do remember, for example, when I did door-to-door sales, then probably took me about 4 or 6 very, very intense weeks to get to the point where I first started seeing something in the eyes of people, so that I didn't have to think about what I'm going to do next. And all types of sales that I've done, I've seen that to be the case everywhere. So, if you master your bit, as we talked about the breakdown of your own things, then reading people obviously becomes the whole point. And there's no better way than asking specific and direct questions about whether the people want to actually talk to you. For example, that could be, I think most of us in sales have heard, when we ask people if they are okay to have a call right now, something like, yeah, what's it about? It doesn't really mean, obviously, that the people are willing to take 5 or 10 minutes of their time right now. And I remember that realizing that at one point, that people are ready for this call for 5-10 minutes, or they're not, forced me to also sometimes ask these questions directly, like whether they really have a time right now for 5 minutes, or if they're in the middle of something, I'd rather call back. And all these sort of things only happens, when you're trying to master this, when you have this ambition of you need to read people in order to move on, because you can't use guns to force people to buy from you. You have to get their agreement. Then there are 2 interesting points that I wanted to sort of end this with. First of all, about finding yourself. What I mean by this is that it's basically an assumption that authentic and confident you in sales performs the best. And it's also an assumption that being yourself in sales is tough. It's easier to be in a role, and often salespeople, don't like the job they have. I've seen a great number of people in sales like that, and sometimes it's way easier to defend us from all the negative, reactions when we are not us, when we're not open like that. But first it's good to copy, obviously, the best people and mimic. Actually, always we do it as kids, and I think when growing up, then trying things on our own, trusting our own guts, we become unique. And second, I think that learning to be you in sales and unique as you are, the biggest thing here is that you connect better and you open people up better and you influence better. Plus, you have a sort of better chance of of coming up and sticking to what works for you, because everybody is different. And I think there's you in every sale you make. It's not only the things you do there. But how do you do it? I do think that it's sort of a byproduct, first of all, of you focusing on things that put you on a path of success, which means that you have your good action-based selling working for you, that you have enough confidence that you will get to good results. I think that also eases you up a bit and lets you be you a bit more. But also it's about the attempt or the ambition of being you, thinking that you're worthy as you are in sales, and that's a good way of being. And sometimes we think that we're worthy only if we do certain things, and we forget about the fact that we are actually the whole reason why people talk to us and why they feel connected and why they feel that they can trust us. And then the last bit I wanted to also put out here is that sales is forever a commission sport. So it means that there's so much pressure to hit the quotas, to pay the bills, and that also gets you very tense, and often too tense for what you want to achieve. I mean, probably just enough intensity to go around screaming back to me, damn it, but a bit too much intensity for being really calm in discussions and conversations, and asking the specific and direct and maybe sometimes tough questions as well, and presenting your solutions in a way that people understand that you're not anxious about getting this sold, but really trying to figure out if that's a good solution. So Zen, I think in Japanese sort of form of Buddhism, as it is explained quite often, sort of emphasized toward meditation. But here I'm referring it to as really being relaxed and not worrying about the things you cannot change, which I think takes us back to the whole, assumption that we started with, is that in sales you really cannot control the results that you're after, but you need to set the goals for these, and then focus in on your actions that you can. That was really the points that I wanted to make here, is that I do think that that's a very good angle to have in sales, that you look at the action-based perspective, and then going forward with committing the time, having the mentality that you can learn forever, and then breaking things down for you and starting applying the different ways that you can perfect yourself and get better, and then obviously understanding that it's all in the name of reading people better and understanding who you can go forward with and when you can go forward, and not forgetting that it's you in the whole process, that finding yourself and finding your own Zen in a way is the way for you to be in this game for a long time. And I think that sort of wraps up the part that I was planning to tell. And I'm happy to have some Q&A going here, or figure out from Eddie whether Nikita is ready to go on with Enablement.
Thank you, Timo. That was great. Can I ask you a few questions from the audience? Sure. And also I have some interesting. So you talked about finding yourself. It's very interesting. How did you understand that sales is for you, and how did you end up on this path?
Well, I don't know how many people are actually in the world. Sorry?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Maybe there was some sort of echo. I don't know how many people actually are in the world that sort of end up in sales and they didn't sort of pursue that career, let's put it that way. So I definitely didn't, but I did like I said, end up in sales, and I had a very strong understanding that it's not for me. People won't buy from me, but okay, I'll do this, right? I'll just put myself into this. And if your question was when or how did I sort of figure out that was something that I could, really like and live with, I think a couple of moments. First of all, like 3 moments that I think sort of defined it for me the most. First of all, seeing the fact that I was no better at talking or being fluent than my teammates, and yet by just focusing on a sort of working part of that, just doing the action that I noticed that all the people that were good were doing, I saw the results, which were way better than most of my teammates, which was a big surprise to me. And that was something that made me pay attention, like what's going on here, really, because I was thinking that sales is for people who are really fluent in talking. And then second, I think realizing that it's there's professionalism in this work that makes a difference, and really being able to break down. I think that's where I was good at. I think to see behind this one whole action that somebody was doing, and then just trying to break it down for you into sort of 5 or 6 different things that they were trying to do. So that would be the second point, that I noticed that I could be good at this. I was able to break the cells down into different bits that I was able to improve. And the third one, probably, like, that's why I was able, I think, to stay in sales for years and years, was that I realized that at the very sort of raw level, sales is really about people connecting, and then one party, having a need or having a problem or not having it, and the other party trying to see if there's a problem or a need that they can solve with the solution that they have. And that, to me, sort of became much less a sales with all the sort of fluff in it and all the sort of artificial things, or sort of. I really like the fact that it was something that I see happening every day with human people, human beings in different things. We connect to do something together, and I realized that if I had put my effort in and I could see that I had consistency, then being able to be myself in sales and being sort of, relaxed and saying that that's fine, I can be whoever I am and I don't need to be like somebody else. That was really sort of reassuring, and I really liked that part of sales. And I was able to see that sort of added one other piece, which I didn't even think it will add, that personality that everybody has and I had, that starts to come in as well.
Cool.
Hopefully answered your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. You also talked a lot about learning all kinds of people and sales skills. Now that we have all the information available in the world via internet, do you have any learning hacks for sales that you can share right now?
30 seconds.
Sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just missed your question, I think, a little bit. I missed some part because we were breaking up.
Yeah, sorry about this. So the question was, do you have any learning hacks to share with the listeners, basically? Because now we have all the information available in the world about sales, about people skills. And sorry, I keep getting interrupted. Yeah. Hopefully you heard me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard you. So I think for me, the great thing about internet is that you can search for whatever really is there. So whatever you want to find out more about, there's not too many things that are immediately very useful. But I think the best thing that I've seen, if you talk about hacks, is that in sales, everything that I've always found really inspiring for me, I think 2 things. One is the way you should look at what you do, like having really a good angle. And then some books have been wrote about it, like, how you should look at what you're doing so that you feel that you're doing something really good instead of being the bugger that always sort of annoys people. But the second, maybe even more inspiring, is the fact that you can find out the ways that people can ask questions, and the ways that you can say something and have these sort of dialogues. I'm always really drawn to bits in books and in internet where I can see that somebody is expressing or sort of putting forward a dialogue that they're having with the prospect, and for me, the sort of seeing how other people have scripted or logged the dialogue, and seeing what they ask or what they say, and then trying to figure out why would they do this that way, and what are they really getting with this. That's really like, that's all the hacking that I would ever need for my own needs, just to, get to there. And I remember reading a book, I can't remember the author immediately, but I remember reading a book of question-based sales at some point during my career, and that was perfect. I mean, I had so many different dialogues that I really liked. I also do remember the whole sort of movement or the angle of spin selling, which helped people to discover the needs of salespeople with a very good set of questions and the way you should structure that dialogue. So for me, I think this is the best hacking that can happen in sales, that you can lay your eyes on dialogues that other salespeople have in their situations, so that you can take that and see if that works for you, or if it makes you raise your eyebrows, or you can definitely see some value there immediately and then put that to work.
Great, thank you. You also talked about reading people, and I was wondering if there's anything else you could advise salespeople, because I mean, not everyone has the opportunity to go and try door-to-door sales. Is there anything you could advise for people who want to understand people better, read people better?
Yeah, I think I would probably re-stress the point that I was trying to make, which is it's almost impossible to read people if we're in our own head, if you know what I mean. It's like if we're thinking about our next question at the same time, if we're thinking, oh, was that a good thing that I just did right now? So all these things, like if we're not good at what we do, if we're not practicing what we do, or if we're not sort of relaxed enough, we're quite anxious about what we do. I mean, we shouldn't even be talking about reading people, because we can't. We just won't. We will hear them. We will probably be able to take a note or some of the words, but we won't be able to sort of see, okay, they said that. Is that really true? What did they really mean with this? What did they not say? And all this sort of thing. Are they polite, or are they really saying this because that's the real sort of like objection or statement or a fact of the need, about the need? So all this sort of reading only happens when you take care of you being good at what you do, so you don't have to think about it, so you have committed the time, you've practiced, and also that you've eased up and you're not too anxious about the results. But it kind of, you can see that it can be a good circle, so that you do commit the time and you get more, consistent. And if you don't, then I'm saying that you're not getting out of that cycle to be even the reader of people, in terms of, if you will. But in case you get out of it, I think everybody will figure this out more and more. If you're able to pay attention to what people say, then I think it's just the ambition to understand what people are saying. Maybe just one thing I can. There are many, but one thing I can say is that I've realized in sales that most people talk in generalization. What I mean by this is that when you ask somebody like, so, what is the problem with with your current system or whatever, the salespeople quite often ask. Let's say that there's a system that you are providing, right? Whatever, IT system or something else. Then quite often what you hear is going to be, interesting and it feels as if, okay, that's the case. But the problem is that quite often you get that in a format of general comments. Rarely people start with saying, okay, let me give you 3 examples. And quite often people don't even go there at all. So the question is, when you look at your notes, when you have these sort of meetings and calls, what do you see there? If you see that there's no, specific examples there, I say that there is a way to go. There's a way to improve there by being able to read people better. And by reading this, I would just say that, okay, when you say that the system is actually lagging, or you say that the reliability is not there, you can always go in and ask, so what do you mean by this? Could you give me 1 example or 2 examples that represents this problem that you have the best? And then, people go into these specific situations, and I think this is where a lot of the difference is being made between people that will be trusted as the solution providers and people that won't be. So, getting in and trying to read what's sort of behind the sentence that you're giving first, I think is a very good sort of skill to learn and get better at. But again, it only happens when you are, when you are crafting, mastering your craft, so that you can pay attention to what's being said.
That's great. Thank you, Timo. It certainly applies to me because I get super excited sometimes and just anxious to close the deal or to start moving forward. So how do you, tying it back to finding your Zen? How would you advise people to find their inner Zen? I don't know, meditate before a sales call.
I don't know about if that's sort of, again, I try to make that point here so that it wouldn't be as spiritual. Sometimes it might be a good idea. Sometimes we get so anxious that we just can't get out of our body, really, right? So we're so sort of thrilled about the positive outcome that might be there that we almost shiver. So obviously, then you could meditate in your head if that's what's going to calm you down, or you could also run 100-yard dash or something, or just up and down the stairs and sort of get out of that very, very anxious state so that you do something. But I was more thinking that it pays in sales to get to the point where you are relaxed about what you're offering, which means that there's quite a bit of work that needs to go in to understand what it is that you're really selling. Otherwise, you're going to be anxious and you're going to feel that some people will know it better than you, and then you immediately feel the anxiety grow up again. But at the same time, you also need to understand how your prospects and customers are living and what sort of life they have and what sort of problems they have. So I think that also helps you become more at ease with what you're doing. You're trying to really connect the two worlds, right? So the problems that the customers have and the potential solutions that could help them, and one of them being yours. And then I think what always helped me a bit was that I thought of sales as connecting the dots more than forcing the dots to be together. And what I mean by this is that when I did notice that our solution was not really going to be the one that is going to help the people, I quite often was upfront with people saying that, listen, I don't know if it's going to be the best for you here, but I do know how it could help you. We can talk about it, but you need to, in a way, you need to tell me if you feel that this is a really good solution. So changing and switching this around a bit by being honest about how you feel about the current situation in sales, that sort of helped me to find that Zen, and being in this, knowing that I can't really force anybody to make a buying decision. It sort of has to happen when people feel that that's a very good connection right here between this solution and between our problem. And again, I don't know how helpful I am with this. I'm just trying to think aloud here a little bit, but everybody probably has their own road about finding their own Zen in sales.
Thank you, Timo. That's great. And now we're going to be finding our inner Zen in sales enablement environment, and going to be shifting gears a little bit. And let me introduce you to Mikita Mikado, CEO of PandaDoc. He has 11 years of experience in sales and running various software businesses. Mikita, of course, is a co-founder of and CEO of PandaDoc, and makers of all-in-one software that enables sales enablement easier and faster delivery of personalized sales documents. Hello, Mikita.
Hi, Eddie. Hi, Timo. Thank you for plugging me in, and thanks for the warm intro. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I hope you can see that. And I'm also going to start my presentation. All right. Can you guys see the presentation?
No, not yet.
Hold on a second. Screen share. Ta-dum-pum-pum. Slides. Ta-dum. Awesome. Sharing a screen with audience.
Can you just click on slides and move from there? Yes, and just click yes.
Let's just do that. All right. First, a little bit about myself. I co-founded PandaDoc, spent 11 years in the world of content and content enablement, content management, and last 6 years of my life were spent in the world of sales content, proposals, quotes, contracts, all that jazz. As of today, PandaDoc helps over 5,000 companies to build and deliver sales collateral to their customers. And a lot of my learnings actually come from our clients. So I had a pleasure to talk to many sales leaders, many marketing leaders, and learn from the way they do business. So I wanna start with some interesting stats, and say that according to American Marketing Association, 82% of buyers think that sales reps come to the meetings unprepared. And another interesting number is the following. Sales reps spend only 22% of their time actively selling. So I believe that problems at the bottom of the funnel contribute to these numbers a lot. So today, we'll talk about sales efficiency and effectiveness at the bottom of the funnel. It's an area usually overlooked by sales leadership, sales operations, and marketing. And that's the area where PandaDoc focuses. So let's start with what contributes to the most of sales inefficiency at the bottom of the funnel. At a high level, I believe it's sales and marketing misalignment. What we see at PandaDoc is that the marketing is still hyper-focused at the top of the funnel. Things like web analytics, demand generation, lead capturing, lead distribution, etc. Beyond that, there is next to no effort by marketing to impact sales effectiveness. And the truth is sales and only sales actually close those leads, those deals. The marketing spends budgets, blood, sweat, and tears to generate. Basically, marketers lose insight into what happens after the handoff from marketing to sales. As a result, 70% of marketing content is never actually used by sales, while marketing doesn't even know about it. Another interesting number is that 82% of decision makers are unprepared, while 65% of the sales reps can't find the right content. So all that creates a very interesting mix that definitely disrupts this Zen state of selling. When you know what you do, you have a sequence of activities you gotta do, and you just split your day in the short but very, very concise actions that you gotta take to close deals. And at the same time, sales reps spend countless hours on admin work, writing proposals, getting approvals and contracts, connecting different people on both sides of the wire to negotiate in terms, and once the deal gets closed, arranging the actual transaction of money. So no wonder that the data I'm clicking through proves that fixing the problems at the bottom of the funnel hugely impacts any kind of business. So the question becomes, how do we fix those problems? How do we bridge marketing and sales, and how do we ensure both teams work well together, and the bottom of the funnel, sales, is a Zen process. So the first thing we do is actually very, very simple, and that first thing is we have to start sending proposals instead of quotes or contracts. The reason why is actually very simple. Sales proposals close better. Based on hundreds of thousands of documents that were sent through PandaDoc, we see that if you are sending sales proposals, your chances of getting a signature on the document are a lot higher. Now, what's the difference between a sales proposal and, let's say, a quote or a contract? A lot of people confuse those three. So, well, first one is that proposals have more information other than pricing details and contractual terms. They position your product or service as a relevant solution. They tell a story. They're tailored to the prospect, and therefore they're more effective. After receiving a great proposal, your buyer won't say that your sales rep was unprepared. And it's just one document, so your sales cycle gets shorter because you don't have to wait for a client to take multiple actions on your documents, wait for a contract, follow up with like invoice and so on and so forth. And whatever collateral you send out is going to be compared to what competitors send. So if you want to make sure you're sending awesome proposals versus quotes or contracts, involve marketing, help them to chip in, help them to provide you with the templated content on why your product or why your service is better, why you add more value than your competitors, and so on and so forth. Now, next, what I want to share is just a few tips that we learned over the last few years about what actually makes sales proposals great and what makes them different. But before I start, I want to share a little secret on how we actually learned that, and the way we learned that is through our own analytics module. PandaDoc has the ability to track which content prospects interact with the most when they open documents, how much time they spend on each page, each section, so on and so forth. So we learned that through the aggregated data that came from thousands of documents that were sent through our product. So actually have a little bit of design issues on the presentation after it got uploaded to BrightTalk. But yeah, so let's talk about the tips for great sales proposals. So first one is the cover letter. What we found is that at least 30% of recipients' time is spent on a cover letter, as long as you have one. This executive usually wouldn't have enough time to go beyond this section. In many cases, those are the decision makers. So 2 tips on the cover letters. First, definitely require your reps to write them and make sure they write them from scratch. They summarize the proposal, they deliver high-level pitch, and all that happens within a few sentences. Because again, there is a high chance that the actual decision makers won't go beyond this section. They'll let their subordinates to study the proposal while they kind of like get the summary of what you're offering. Next section is the social proof. Social proof is a client quote or like a short case study that you can add in the body of your proposal. That's where marketing can help a lot. Nothing makes you more relevant compared to making a similar company successful. To make a case study even more compelling to your buyer, you may want to consider including a video case study or video testimonial. We found at PandaDoc that videos in proposals are viewed 5 times more, like customers spend 5 times more time on them comparing to any other piece of content in the entire document. And you know, it's kind of surprising and it's kind of not, because we're seeing a lot more content online, and just like a lot more content is delivered through video. People get used through video. Especially the younger generation of folks that grows up with like Snapchats of the world. And then the third tip is to make your proposals personalized. The way to do that is, like, for instance, call the decision maker and their company by name through the entire document. And you can automate that by, again, taking data out of Pipedrive, merging it with templates like within PandaDoc, or you can also copy paste through our Word docs, but that's not very time sufficient. And then include social proofs. Add quotes from your existing customers that are similar to the prospective client you want to close. Someone they can relate to, same industry or same company size, same title, so on and so forth. So the next cohort of things to consider adding to your proposals is ability for customers to buy additional stuff from you. So in addition to pricing for required products or services that you discussed, you can include optional, so-called like a la carte items that your prospects can select. By giving them this nice to have options, you can potentially add up to like 10-15% in revenue. What you can definitely do, you can increase your average deal size. If you have to discount, instead of like lowering the total price of your offer, you can just focus on negotiation around these optional items. Discount them, give them away for free, but keep your price and deal size high. And again, there is a number of tools that allow you to do that. We discussed the kind of like the meat of your offering with a customer. That's what you propose. But then, hey, there's also like an option to buy fries on the side. Like if you want to buy it, like check this checkbox and go ahead, sign on this proposal. The next tip is to add actual terms to every proposal, making it legally binding, because that decreases the number of back and forth with prospective clients and thus decreases your sales cycle. Ensure that any legal terms you include within your proposal are up to date and have been reviewed and approved by a lawyer. That adds a lot of zen, because those mistakes are usually very, very, very impactful in a bad way, and you usually stress out a lot about those. You may also want to consider making the terms uneditable, so there is no risk of delivering the wrong terms to your prospects. And then finally, have closing calls to action. The proposal should end with a strong call to action that helps the buyer close the deal for you. There are two of those we offer within PandaDoc, an electronic signature and the ability for the prospect to pay for your product or service immediately after they sign. There are a ton of e-signing tools on the market these days, so I highly encourage everyone to utilize one. Like, there are many offers. Just if anything else, get your deals on e-signing. Making it easy for a customer to sign on a deal is the simplest thing you can do that will immediately increase your revenue. And that's one thing that would absolutely simplify and improve the life of your sales reps, allowing them to focus on what really matters. They wouldn't have to like chase paper. You send out a document, get a legally binding electronic signature, you close the deal. Done. And finally, adding a payment option is a very easy thing to do in order to decrease the quote to cash time, which is which is also very important. We want to close deals faster. Not only close more deals, but we also want to close them faster so that we can focus on other prospects and other opportunities. So now that we know what good sales proposals include, and we're talking about cover letters, we're talking about social proof, personalization, pricing options, terms, and closing calls to action, let's talk about how do we make them happen? How do we get sales, awesome, how do we enable our sales teams with awesome sales proposals? And the way to do that is actually with, gotta go back a little bit. The way to do that is by bridging the gap between marketing and sales. We believe that bottom of the funnel client experience should start with a customer. We should tell one concise story, both at the top of the funnel as well as at the bottom. We got to guide customers through discovery, education, validation, proposal, and closing. And you must be able to achieve this with so many factors in play, industry, geography, buyer persona, the total audience, pains, and today the story normally starts with the content on your website or the content of your outbound sales campaigns, which is either managed or hugely influenced by marketing. So the good news is that most marketing teams already have all that necessary content. They already have videos, they already have sales pitches, decks, client testimonials, case studies, data sheets, etc. And the best scenario we've seen among thousands of customers is when marketing enables the reps with the right tools to deliver stunning proposals. There are three major things that could be done here by marketing, other than setting up an awesome sales enablement software like PandaDoc. But there are three things. Marketers can create a library of sales-ready content templates, which we discussed previously. Marketing can categorize this content to make every proposal relevant to a customer. And then marketing can constantly measure the performance of this content templates as well as their usage by sales. So I want to finish with the following. Everything I was talking about today, it heavily depends on marketing and sales working together to build an awesome process. And Timo, I think activity-based selling is also about an awesome process that you stick to and you follow. So we at PandaDoc highly encourage sales to give proposals a shot and marketing to help them on this journey. And we believe that when both teams are helping each other and work together, great things happen. You grow faster and you love your business and your process is Zen. So with that, I want to wrap up and say thank you for everyone who has been with us. Should we move on to the question section, Eddie?
Yes, Nikita, thank you very much for the presentation. So, dear viewers, this is your time to shine, and you can enter your questions below the screen of a presentation. Nikita, in the meanwhile, coming back to self-improvement and continuous learning, what would you recommend for the viewers where they could either research or they could learn more about sales enablement and writing better proposals, or maybe some specific tips and hacks that they can apply?
Of course, start with our blog and Pipedrive's blog. Yeah, what I would recommend is to try to kind of learn from each other. What we've seen in many organizations is just kind of like walls between marketing and sales, where one team doesn't really participates in another team's like work, while the sales team doesn't participate much in defining buyer personas and product marketing, like collateral and so on and so forth. So honestly, the easiest way to learn is not just externally, Pipedrive's, PandaDoc's blog, but also internally from your own peers. And for marketing to step up and offer help with sales content, that's the way to go. Like, that's one step you can take in order to make that happen.
That's great advice, and ties perfectly with also Timo's advice on analyzing and reading sales scripts together. That's great. Nikita, just to kind of follow up proposals, maybe you have some other advice on what other low-hanging fruits for getting some benefits from sales enablement from either marketing or sales sides, or a collaboration of both.
Yeah. So the first one is going to be like, what's going to come out of this collaboration, right? So the first thing that's going to come out of the collaboration of two teams is a crisp, well-defined buyer persona or personas. The second thing that's going to come out of this is the higher deal size, higher closing rates, and then finally the alignment among both teams, which brings peace, and zen and focus. Now, in terms of like what both teams can do, to Timo's point, I totally agree that working the scripts together is a great exercise. At the very least, what you're gonna discover and find out is, are both teams aligned? Are we saying what marketing wants us to say during the sales process? Are we marketing and positioning our product the way we sell the product at the bottom of the funnel? All those things will come out of this collaboration, and I'd say as long as you find those like productive ways to collaborate, absolutely do it.
Awesome. Timo, I guess we have a shout out for you. Timo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We have a shout out to Pipedrive from Facebook, from Alice Wanderlust. I guess that's not really a real name. Have you checked out a business card reader for Pipedrive? It's a Google Android app. Hello?
Is that a question, or?
Yeah, that's the whole question. Apparently, someone built a business card reader which integrates into Pipedrive, and you can just take a picture of the cards of a prospect or a new lead, and it uploads to Pipedrive. So just
Very nice. We have. I do remember we have an integration in place already. Maybe this is exactly the one referred to, but I'll definitely check it out. Make sure what it is. But as a tool, I know what it is, so it's a very, very useful tool.
Cool. I just promised to ask about this, and we'll let them know. All right. Well, thank you very much, Timo and Mikita. It seems that there are no more questions right now. Thank you, viewers. Please check out pipedrive.com and pandadog.com and sign up for a free trial. You can learn more about sales enablement and activity-based sales in Pipedrive and PandaDog blogs. Nikita, Timo, would you like to add anything?
Timo, I'd love to talk to you about.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. I'd love to talk to you about meditation and how that helps you in your daily routine. So, I've tried that, and it made a amazing impact. And a lot of folks that have stressful jobs that I know who went on this path also have many great things to share on that front. So yeah, would love to chat with you about that.
Absolutely, we should take the time because there are more, I think, more spiritual ways to meditate and more sort of down to earth ways to do that, which everybody can find their weapon. But it's important that we stay in sort of, I think, sort of good balance and nicely in our head and nicely in our body and sort of out of our head when we need to.
Yep, totally.
All right.
Well, from me, just also like to say thank you to all the listeners, and hopefully we've been able to at least help a little here with this bit of content, and it was really good to hear, Nikita, you sharing the things about proposals and how you go about perfecting that process of yours even better, because I think that's all about crafting or mastering your craft.
100%. Well, thank you, Timo. Thank you, everybody, for attending this webinar. Hope to see you at our next one.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.